Hey everybody, I am Cinnamon Cooney, your art Sherpa, and hopefully I'm coming to you today live to teach you the very beginning basics of perspective. This is part of the Big Art Quest, which is a weekly look at different art concepts and tools that you need to go from being a beginning artist to wherever else you're going in your art journey. The goal of today's thing is to cover the basic terms that a very new person would need to know about perspective, how they relate to your art journey, and sort of get you getting in the concept. We're not going to cover all of perspective in some crazy multi-hour marathon. We're going to break this up into segments. So today we're going to work on terms and one-point perspective, and that's what we're going to cover today. How are you doing, John?
Oh, good.
It is a little challenging for us to get live today. So many of you may not be here at the beginning because we've had to restart several times.
We did. We've had a couple of little technical hiccups this time. I'm just barely hanging on over here.
Yeah, you know, because my bangs are all, and I'm going to have some coffee.
You can have some coffee. I'm going to have some coffee, too. I'm just letting everybody know where we're at. I don't even know where we're at.
Normally we hop right in like hardcore, but the Quest is a live experience. It lets the community who's painting with us come in and ask their personal art questions. Gives me a chance to get a sense of what's working for people, what's not working.
They were looking for us because they found us. We got 100. I mean, it's like 190, 200 people. Just boom.
190, 200 people.
Thank you.
It's how awesome we are even when we're lost.
Thank you for coming and finding me because I was so panicked. I pushed 2 wrong starts. Okay.
He's like, what should I do? I'm like, I don't know. Hit the go live now button. See if that one works.
It did. Okay.
It did. So there you are.
Teach them, Sherpa.
So I'm going to teach you. First thing is perspective. What is it? Well, really simply, the simplest way you can put it is I have a flat surface. That's my canvas.
You do?
It has no shape other than its physical shape. But I need to create the illusion of shape within that canvas. And there are 2 types of perspective that let me do that. One is linear perspective and one is atmospheric perspective. Linear perspective is like what you see here. This is about the lines that objects make to a vanishing point on a horizon line to create the illusion of depth. The second type of perspective is atmospheric or 0-point perspective. You'll hear those terms. And what that means is I have no buildings, roads, power lines, city structures. I have organic shapes. And I have an organic reality. And how I mute colors, how I create size relationships between objects, and even a little bit about how I imply vanishing points create perspective there. Other terms that you need to understand is a vanishing point. What the heck is a vanishing point? So basically, if you imagine that the world is neat and tidy and from any 1980s gaming graphics, do you remember when they had like the little lines or early Tron? Right? And there was that point in the distance where all the lines were running into it. That is your vanishing point. That's the point at which you can't see where the lines are converging anymore in the distance. Your horizon line is basically where the sky meets the earth. It's this vanishing point. You can't always see in a photograph a vanishing point. It's interesting, a horizon line, because sometimes objects hide the obvious placement of the horizon line. 1-point perspective. Basically what this means is I'm standing in the middle of a railroad tracks, a road, whatever. It's straight. There isn't a lot of stuff in my way, and I can see where those lines converge on the horizon line. That's my point at which that I can't see what's going on anymore. The vanishing point. It's pretty cool. 2 points, so there's 1-point perspective. Happens there, right? I'm looking down the railroad tracks where those go.
You want to see that?
You know what? We were going to actually go, I was going to define the terms.
Okay.
And then do pictures.
Okay, sure.
We actually have a plan. I have notes.
Oh, sorry. I know you were just talking about the railroad tracks. And I was like,
I know, and you have them, and we're going to go back to that.
Okay.
2-point, right, is when you think of a building or a house, there's 2 points of vanishing, and oftentimes in a piece there can be compound vanishing points. That's when like the lines would be bisecting over here and bisecting over here. 3-point, basically anytime you're looking up a building or a tree, it starts to get 3-point perspective because there's another vanishing point up in the atmosphere, down low, someplace. That's the point about your point of view. So there's a vanishing point, and there's your point of view as a viewer to the objects in the painting.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to hear people talking about these things. Here's the deal about perspective. And for many of you, this may be like having the veil pulled off, and you wait when you really, really understand what I mean about art being a set of skills. This skill set, which is the basis of objective art, right? Art that looks like stuff, landscapes, still lifes, street scenes, is a really learnable, teachable, digestible skill set. It's a no talent skill set.
What? No talent? Wait.
None.
So
Can you use a ruler and trace with a pencil?
That's it?
Yeah, that's really what it is. And so when we're doing a cabin or we're doing any of these things, and how we understand these skills and how we apply them is the science of art. It is the basis of most of the masterworks you see in a museum. These guys did not have Photoshop. They couldn't drag home a reference. They had to be able to put this information together in a real way. Like if you think we're going to be looking at some Hudson School art today, the Hudson River School, no Google, no Wikipedia. Right. So these are skill sets that could be translated from master to apprentice. And the thing is they're very, very engineering based. They're very, very technical based. A little more of a struggle for me because I'm kind of like fly by your pants and wear floral hats. But if you're a very orderly person, you have just figured out that art is your jam.
Yeah.
And that if you can figure out a grayscale and perspective, you can create art that's going to blow people's minds.
Yes.
All right. So we had some pictures to talk about this. And the first one we had was linear perspective.
Okay. So
just to put a context there. I'm going to show y'all how to draw a box.
Can you lean to your right? Oh, there it goes. Whoa.
All right. So see that there?
What is this?
In this image, I can't point over it, right? You see how those lines are coming together down this tunnel?
How many points is that?
This is a 1-point perspective drawing. We have some more references on 1 point coming up, but this would be a 1-point perspective drawing. Your horizon line is right there where those lines start to converge. Just a little bit above it would be the horizon line. You can see how the objects closer are bigger, and then as they get further away, they get more smaller and more repeated, and it converges down, right? And so I don't have to be able to draw to put this in. I just have to be able to figure out the vanishing point and get my T-square, my ruler, and my triangle out, and I'm set. Add some grayscale skills to that, and I'm painting.
Yeah. Okay.
Just like right now, and it's just straight up.
I hadn't even thought about that. See, that's exciting to me.
It's kind of cool.
I would totally see. I'm resisting. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But this is cool. This is an exciting idea. I like.
No, this is the jam.
I like the idea of like doing a perspective drawing and then like coming in and like using acrylic to paint that in. That's cool.
Yeah. And again, if you have your grayscale down, you got tonalism and perspective. You have art. You really do. I mean, you're still working on your imagination, but your ability to create what you see in the world is super, super learnable for everybody. Do we have some atmospheric perspective, Mr. Cooney?
We do. They had a question.
Oh, okay. I want to hear the question.
They have a sticker on your shirt. What's your sticker from?
Oh, this is why I relate to Tina. Forgot to take it off. I had to be a Thanksgiving feast visitor at the school. I didn't do last year. John did last year, and my son expressed that this was the last good year to go.
I gotcha. So, all right, they were so.
Oh, here's another linear perspective. So we see
linear. What is that?
Linear. All right. So in this linear perspective, can you see how the streetlights are descending, converging to a common point? That the lights of the cars are converging to a common point. Now, in that the Triomphe, the Arch de Triomphe, is facing us directly. We don't see a lot of its side views. And all of those architectural elements are in ever descending scale.
Now that's 1 point?
That is a linear 1-point perspective drawing.
All right.
Photograph.
So linear 1 point is kind of interchangeable there.
Yeah. Well, no, linear is anything that's architectural. You can be linear Secret City. You can be linear building in the sky. But it's about objects that have really clear, discernible vanishing points, like roads,
okay.
things that men make
Gotcha.
in general.
That makes sense.
And you can also use this for people, to scale people in a paint. Remember how y'all were like, I'm not really sure how to make this girl the right size to this Eiffel Tower? If we had used perspective on that, it would just be math. You don't have to kind of eye it out. It's just math. Once I determine the perspective of that Eiffel Tower, I determine the size of the girl with the vanishing point, and then we just know her size. This is not something I'm going to type out in when I get asked a question. Because I have to write. I'd be writing a book on perspective if I was answering that in text. This here is the Hudson School. I think I have the name of the artist. If you guys want.
Yes, this is. I have to scroll it open.
This is one of my favorite places in American art. The Hudson River School. It's probably the beginning.
Jasper Francis Cropsey.
Yeah, this is out of copyright. You can copy this painting.
1860. You could replicate it.
You can replicate it. Yeah.
I don't know. We could all aspire.
It teaches you a lot. So, what do you notice about the objects that are close up?
They're crackly.
They're sharper. They're bigger and they're sharper. As objects are further away, what does that far away mountain look like?
It's very faded. It's very soft.
It's faded and soft. So this artist is using muted colors and out of focus techniques to create the sense that this rock, right? Because in functional reality, the rock is here and the mountain's here. That's functional reality.
Oh, yeah.
So, right, it's just on a canvas.
Right. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Right.
They are not in different space. It's the illusion. You have to be a magician. And how this artist created those things is he used what's called the key of a painting. That's the high to low values of a painting. Use color theory. Warm colors are closer. Cool colors are further away. Use the focus of a painting. Things that are closer to us are in focus. This is before he ever had a camera.
Yeah.
Right? To really look at this and observe this, to understand this. They had to sit and observe this reality. Right? And objects in the background are out of focus.
Yeah.
Other things, things that are closer to you, trees that are the closest to you, might be bigger.
Yeah. See, I like how it has this kind of story of like there's this little pond up here in the foreground.
Yeah.
But how
compositionally, it's a brilliant piece.
That mid-ground rolls out there, and a lot of people were commenting. Chris is here. He says hi.
Hi, Chris.
So like the things real close are real sharp, and the things out in the distance real blurry.
Yeah,
so,
everything about this, the design of it, the balance of it, the way there are objects going off the canvas that tell you that this world is bigger. This is a big painting too. This up-close pond, which is similar to this distant water, which invites us to the wealth and the greenery. This isn't a desert. This is a paradise. A lot about this tells you that this is completely typical of the Hudson River School, but this sort of untouched divine paradise. See, us tree huggers, we've always been around talking about save the trees, don't build on it. Just always here saying this railroad track, which I would totally be thrilled to be on. All right, so this is one point. So we're going to talk about this. This is the beginning of perspective, and this is what we're going to learn today. We're going to functionally do an activity on today, is 1 point perspective. You see the horizon line, right there. The road lines are converging. If you look, here's some jam. The clouds are in perspective.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Even though they're weird, crazy, and uneven objects, you can see the bottoms of them,
they're all flat.
How they're vanishing in. Yeah, they're flat, and they're getting smaller and closer together, not dissimilar to that ring hallway.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
So how can somebody who's not looking at a reference photo paint landscapes?
By using these tricks?
Yeah, if you really understand your lighting, your keying, and your perspective, you can really paint from your imagination. One of my favorite artists alive today, Turbush, does monolithic, completely fantastical landscapes that feel super real.
Now I'm going to jump back here because Melissa was saying, and make sure I got this. She says warm colors in the front and cool colors towards the back. Is that right?
That is correct, because warm colors feel like they're closer to us, and cool colors feel like they're far away. There is something this painting has in common with Rothko.
Oh.
which is, if you think about the minimalist work, right? Have you ever been to the museum and seen the picture with it's just got two swatches of paint next to each other?
Yes,
you're
I was,
like,
and the
why?
big white painting and the circle and the dot, which is
Right,
really cool.
right?
But I mean, like
that actually is
Mondrian,
related to
dude.
this.
Yeah.
This understanding of this mountain being far away
Yeah.
and these other objects being closer is what got the modernists to go, can I just sit there? Can I make an object using color theory look closer to the viewer and one feel pushed back when they're just swatches of paint abstractly? That's what that was about.
That what they were like, and I like how they made the sun kind of washed out.
Yeah.
So it's
You
anyway,
dispersed. It's just, all of that.
it's cool.
Doesn't that tell you about the space in this canvas? It tells you about how the artist feels about this world. It tells you about where objects are in relationship to each other. It talks to you about where you are in relationship to this picture. Right? You've just stepped onto this vista. You've just done this hike with this painter, and now you're looking out. And this is going to make me tear up. This part of our history is forever now.
Yeah.
Because this painting was created. So we can share with him across time this experience of seeing this vista. Okay, there I go.
Okay.
I'm such a sap.
All right.
Okay.
So next question.
Sap.
Rad
We
was
did one
asking.
point.
Rad was asking when you're talking about vanishing points, any vanishing point or just the back vanish? Just to the back.
For 1 point, it will be a singular point on a horizon line. Like I've got a little drawing here. It's a single. No, the point could be over here.
It could be anywhere.
The point could be over here, but it's one singular point that all the objects are converging on.
Gotcha.
Right? And it's generally the first perspective artist kind of master. It would be a good place. So see how we have there? We have the horizon line. This is where the sky meets the distant, the land, which sometimes can be blocked from our view. Right? And we have our cubes drawn, and you can see if the cube is, I'm standing here in a central viewpoint, point of view, and there'd be an object below and an object above my viewpoint. This is how you figure out how that would look.
Yeah.
If you think about a cloud instead of that box, it gives you an idea how you might paint your cloud.
Yeah, this is exciting. I like this.
It's the math of art, man. It is Da Vinci stuff right there.
All right, so what
Here
if we
we
get
go.
complex?
2-point perspective. So what we have are two vanishing points that we're aware of. Now, for most of you, looking at a photograph isn't helpful for determining the vanishing point because it's way off a photograph. Artists I know that are masters of perspective will often extend things off their canvas if they're just rendering something like fantastical. They'll extend extra measurements off their canvas so they can create a more realistic vanishing point to their point of view. This is easy. This artist has said, all right, it's here and it's here.
Yeah.
Right? So if I had, that very famous New York street with the building,
Yeah.
and I was trying to draw the two side streets, I would have to do it in 2-point perspective. Maybe a little 3-point, depending on my point of view.
Gotcha.
Right? Does
So,
that make sense?
so they had a quick. So everyone
I'm
had a,
happy to answer
they
questions.
had a quick question. So actually, everyone was kind of going, "Hey, what is that cool shirt you're wearing?" Say.
Never judge your journey by the first step. It's an official Quest shirt. Yes, it is.
Is it?
In the neutral brown.
Is it? I think that one's in the. Is that one the brown one?
It's
Oh,
the
yeah.
brown one.
It's the
But
brown
it comes in colors and
Yeah.
sizes.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. And you could go to TheArtSherpa.com to find out more information. It's shop.TheArtSherpa.com.
All kinds of goodies there.
And we always appreciate that. And awesome job for Flame for curating that store. I always want to give her a big thank you. She does such a good job with that. So, okay, so back to our.
All right.
What was your perspective on all of this? Could you?
What
go
is your
into- What is your
perspective?
perspective?
My perspective is I just got to find, in art, unlike life, you can find the vanishing point of things on the horizon.
Oh, you know how you'll never find the vanishing point? Unless you click that like, comment, and subscribe button, you're never going to
never
find
know.
it. You'll never. You gotta click
never
it. So,
know.
so otherwise, I'm likely to
This
forget this.
is like, have you ever looked at a painting and you're like looking at a tree and you're looking at a building and it's on a hill and you're like, these things don't make any sense?
Yeah.
Like something's wrong, but you're not sure what's wrong?
Yeah.
It's somewhere in here.
Somewhere.
Somewhere in here, almost every time, The linear perspective and probably combo of the atmospheric perspective is somehow off, and the piece will feel weird. This is 2-point perspective.
So this is like interchangeable. This one
Yeah.
is like,
Yeah, that's
so
just,
like if you're going to draw this grid and then you put that building, boom, right down there.
You know things, don't you now?
There's a building on a grid.
Yeah, there's a well, the grid actually is separate from the building, but the building relates to the grid.
Right.
Even though they're not, these are all wiki images. Even though they're not, from the same reference thing, you can still see that these vanishing points, look at the house, gets smaller and smaller and smaller to the sides. It's biggest up front.
I was just about to ask, like, does this ever really exist? But I guess it does.
It really does. And so you're like, oh, I could never draw that house. Dude, that's the one thing for sure you can draw.
Huh.
Is that house. If you have a ruler T-square and you have your vanishing points, you can totally draw that house.
So like, all right, here, ready to go to the next
Because
one?
it's art math. All right, so
excited.
3-point.
I loaded these, but I didn't understand what I was loading. So.
Right. So what happens in 3-point of perspective is that on top of having your focal perspective, your vanishing point, and your two side points, you also have one that is either going up into the vertical space or down into the vertical space.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like how you try to say, the tree, right, that's going up, that's in 3-point perspective. If all those crazy pictures of the Eiffel Tower where it's like kind of going up, that's in 3-point perspective. I think we have another picture there that kind of talks about this. This is how Escher drew all that Escher stuff.
Yeah. Wow.
Because you have vanishing point and vanishing point and a vanishing point.
Huh.
There's 3 vanishing points.
And then, of course, there's, when you get into 10-dimensional math.
Which we don't in art.
Which would be crazy. Cause
I don't think I gave that. Did you do that?
Hypercubes.
You did. He did a hypercube. No hypercubes. All right.
No 10-dimensional math.
So that's basically what we're talking about in perspective. Is the tools, right, that let us create the illusion of stuff on our canvas.
Yeah.
Right? Is this person standing here closer to me and that person is further away? Is this balloon closer? Is that balloon closer away? Where's the road disappear at? One of the number one things you guys are like, my road is weird. I don't know why.
Huh.
Or, I haven't quite got my power lines. It's actually when you get thrown in something with power lines, oh, yay, because that is super great. It's perspective time.
Yeah.
Road, railroad tracks, all of that.
Over on your picture, real quick.
Cabin.
I want to make sure. Can we recap I want to just recap some of the vocabulary and making you understand. So
anytime. This is our quest.
I'm gonna jump up here real quick. Make sure we go through this and say, where is my image for? Oh, there it is. Okay. So this is 1-point perspective, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Singular vanishing point. Can be anywhere on the horizon line, but it's just one of them.
Now, can you talk about what the vanishing point is?
The vanishing point is the point at which those intersecting lines would converge.
And things disappear to the eye.
And they disappear to the eye.
And we can look at, not that one, but the Hudson then here.
And see that happening there.
And so it all disappears there towards the sun.
Well, actually, everything disappears, not towards the sun, but where the sky meets the water. Do you see that reflection?
Yeah.
That's actually where the vanishing point is.
Gotcha.
This artist is so tight that even in this atmospheric 0-point perspective, you still see this perspective.
Right.
Because this artist is on fleek.
Nice. Okay.
So there's a lot of skills that he worked really hard on getting, but they're really, really not airy-fairy talent-based skills. They're just...
So in 2-point perspective, I thought this was a make-believe. Like this was just going to be some video game land. But it turns out there are really pictures like this, which you don't think about.
And you're going to, most of your cabins, like you guys are like, hey, let's do a cabin in the snow with lights on. That'd be great. And I'm like, we better cover some perspective.
Right.
And where my cabin was wonky on the Bob Ross thing is because I just didn't set my vanishing point. I kind of like freehanded. I'm like, yeah, mostly like this. Because there's some principles, and we're going to work on our cube. We're just going to work on our cube. Because this is better in perspective when you're learning. It's better you learn a small bit before you take on the next bit.
Gotcha.
Right? And you just do it incrementally.
Okay.
However, this really means that this is why, right here, this is why you can see the grayscale and you can do perspective. That's why everybody can paint. That's why, like, in the time of Jane Austen, women were all expected to be able to do art.
Now we're going to go jump here. The last example. So for 3-point perspective, that's where you have 3 different vanish. And this one's tough because this is looking like more complex math than it really is. But when we look at this gives us a much better idea.
But that's how somebody can do something very complicated.
Yeah.
You ever see those really super complicated buildings?
Yeah.
And, much like lettering, so I went to school for advertising art, which means at some point you're going to have to draw the inside of a lot of rooms. Kitchens, living rooms, bathrooms. It's why it's attached generally to an architecture department.
Yeah.
And so, not my fair, you know what I mean? Because I get the T-square, I have to slow down. I don't get to just create all airy-fairy.
Now,
but it is good, and it does help me.
Does every portrait painting have a vanishing point?
Not one that's obvious. And a lot of times artists will eliminate vanishing points. Like we just did Laguna Blue, and we didn't really put a vanishing point in for her, though we had atmospheric perspective.
And real quick,
And you can have linear perspective and atmospheric perspective in the same piece. So,
I'm gonna jump over here.
I'm gonna put this up just real fast.
Okay.
See, I have some perspectives here. If this fence continued on or went up the road, I would have linear perspective. I have a little bit of linear perspective on this tree line. But mostly I have atmospheric perspective. See, I have to combine those two skills to make the illusion that this space exists. Because it doesn't at all. Just in my mind. And the reference photo was not even as good, so.
Now, I was going to see here. I'm going to see if I can. I don't have. I'm going to pull this picture back up for you because they would like for me to show, to point out. Let me go over here.
Okay.
Bing. On this.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk. I'm going to bring my cursor up here, but they want to understand where the 3 different points are on this.
Okay, can you see these 2 lines coming down?
So there's going to be the one that's going to be over here.
Right. This would come down here, and then there's a perspective going vertically.
Up there.
Yeah. And if you saw this whole building, you'd have to deal with that at the bottom as well.
Yeah. So I hope that helps a little bit more.
In many, many photographs, you will not see all the vanishing points. You have to understand where they would be. But just even observing and going, oh, it gets smaller at the top, helps you make more realistic drawings. It helps you draw a table. Whereas if you're looking at a table, it's going to be wider as it's closer to you and narrow as it goes further away. And the box teaches us this. So if we're drawing, right, if we were...
Let me get over there and take a look at you.
I am going to go like this. If we were... I can sit there and just arbitrarily say, all right, I'm going to have a horizon line on my canvas.
Yeah. Let me know that you're going to want RoboCam up.
Sorry. I'm just making a horizon line.
I know, you're doing fine.
Right? And let's just say our vanishing point is here. So there's things that if I'm doing a cabin, right, it's really basically that I'm doing a box. So if I had... I need my T-square. Some people just freehand these in, but I need my T-square. I can have, and I'm going to be slightly, this cabin is slightly off to that point of vanishing, right? So I'm going to make a parallel line, a set of parallel lines. All right, I'm going to go like this. It's not. I do this normally at a table, not at an easel. There could not be a harder way to do this than at an easel.
Oh, wait, you could do it at your little table. I can see you there.
Can you?
Yeah.
Oh, thank
Look at
goodness.
this. So see, look.
That makes me so much happier. Oh, yay. All right. So if I'm making my little box here, right?
We have the technology.
And I have my parallel lines. All right. So these are always going to be parallel. I'll let these go because I was having some easel troubles, right? If my box was in 3 dimensions, it would have its vanishing point, right? Would be like at this line here. I'd make another little vanishing point line right here from the corner to the corner.
Yeah.
Right? It's sort of interesting, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know that my box, this is the shape of my box. Now I'm making the width of my box. It's pretty close to my horizon line, so I'm going to make this a narrow width. Right?
Yeah.
But like I might want some depth to my box. If I want depth to my box, I'm going to take where this line bisects into my diagonal and make another horizontal that matches up. I'm going to do the same down here. Right?
Just taking a sip of my coffee. Now, can you answer a question while you're drawing that in?
Yes, I think I can.
What is 0-point perspective?
0-point perspective, again, is similar to atmospheric perspective. It means I don't have any linear perspective to use as a reference.
Okay, so it's yeah. That makes sense.
Actually, I got to do it like this. I always do this wrong.
Now,
Try to freehand my craziness in, and I don't want to freehand my craziness in because I'm bad at it. Gotta put my horizon.
you're pretty good to me.
No, I got a little lost. I do. This is harder for me. I found that sometimes for me, with my dyslexia, I have a slightly harder time with this. I have to be a little more on point. But I can always do it, even with the triangle and stuff. I can get it. I just have to make sure that all of the converging lines match up, and then that gives me the math to where my downward line would be.
So Angela was saying,
Woo! There we go.
she goes, I think that it's going, if it's going to have any perspective, it will start at one point. Atmospheric is more about color and creating
Yes.
depth. Is that?
That is exactly okay. So atmospheric is about using tools like relationships of size, depth of color, the intensity of color, and sharpness of focus to create an illusion that an object is near or farther away.
Gotcha.
0-point perspective is part of atmospheric perspective in that generally landscapes don't have linear objects. Here we go. And a landscape doesn't have a linear object to give us the perspective. And so you might, if like you're just at hills and you don't have a road and you don't have objects, but you're still using perspective to develop that, right? Like this
Gotcha.
rock be bigger than this rock. This mountain is smaller and further away than this up close, big, interesting tree.
Gotcha.
0-point perspective. Doesn't have like, there's not like this obvious 1-point vanishing point, but that doesn't mean that you don't have paintings that don't combo those skills. Because obviously, I think one of my most visceral art memories is that I did this really beautiful red barn. Maybe why you guys don't see a lot of barns. I did this beautiful red barn in the fall in a field in watercolor. And I really was like, I brought it. It was so good. It was the first painting where I felt like, wow, I'd like pulled my skills together and I had showed out. And, and I had done that. I had like really gotten the barn in accurately, and I'd done a beautiful job with my atmosphere on everything. And my art instructor was like, well, it's a geometrical shape in an agricultural area. That's all he'd say. But in that painting, what had been a big deal for me is I finally got stuff like just like diffused light and distant objects and graying and used my linear perspective. It is when all those things come together because somebody is going to put a cabin on that beautiful hillside. Right?
Yeah.
And if you want to paint that cabin on that beautiful hillside, you're going to need to have atmospheric perspective.
Uh-huh.
And you may add linear perspective. But
Gotcha.
if you have no linear perspective, it's a 0-point perspective.
All right. So
Like space. It's a 0-point perspective very often.
So
Okay, so I got this box. Let's do this again. I
Okay.
got to explain this again.
All right, you explain that. Then I got some.
I'm going to do it over here.
Okay.
So, and this is fun stuff. So many things.
It sounds fun. You
I
wanna-
know. All right, I'm going to do something kind of interesting. I'm going to add a little roof. I'm going to add a low-scale roof to this nonsense.
Why are you adding a roof?
Because this is why we bother with the box.
We don't need no roof.
We all need a roof.
We can just let
Right.
it burn.
I needed to do this in the center of the box. find the center of the box. That's what that crisscrossy nonsense is. Where you got to go crisscross, and then there's my center. If you ever need to find a center of whatever you drew, so you can put in a window or a door or some such nonsense.
It's got some relative, like, all right, this is the surface.
This is the center.
So Thorny Gates was saying, wow, my drafting degree will finally be useful.
Your drafting degree is incredibly useful, and I'm super envious.
And Joan?
Because you have a whole bunch of tools you can use. She's like going to be like, foreshortening, got it.
Yep. And Joan was like, so how do I get permanent marker off my screen? Please don't ask how that happened. And I will say alcohol wipes, and I know this because I've done it myself, so it's not that embarrassing. Alcohol wipes. Now, Lacey.
Right.
Lacey's asking, can you place that horizon line anywhere?
Your horizon line, and I knew this was going to come up, is always about your vantage point. So you want to place your horizon line in a way that backs your vantage point. Are you looking at the object from below? Are you looking at it from up high? Where is your vantage point in relationship to your horizon line? Distances of objects. So in art, arbitrarily, if I'm just messing around, I'm put it wherever I like. I can put my vanishing point way up high, and then have big giant vanishing railroad tracks that go off in the distance, and a building and trees and all of this. I can put my vanishing point lower. It's not like a specific point on the canvas, which is why sometimes when you're looking at photographs, it can be initially hard to get a sense of where the vanishing point is because it's way off the picture.
Yeah.
Or it's not visibly noticeable in the picture. Like a lot of cityscapes, the vanishing point, you don't really get to render into the full vanishing point.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't get to. So I've got this little box. Look, my box has a roof. Now I have a cabin. I could give my cabin a door thing. And my cabin has depth. If I do this little crisscross thing here, and then it lets me put in a window in perspective.
Oh, that's so cool.
Right.
Whoa.
And then I can be like, oh, I better put that lip in so that the window, and then I can pull a little curtain out because I'm a weird person.
You're breaking my brain. This is too cool.
It's not breaking your brain. You're so sweet.
No, I mean, because I used to love this in high school because I haven't done this since high school, and I was all about this.
Yeah, this is the thing, man. You get good at this thing, then you don't need to be good at it, really. I mean, it's great to be good at other stuff, but this is the stuff that will get your street scenes, landscapes, boats, cars.
I don't know about you, but back when we had book covers, I mean, it was covered with, 1-point perspective lettering.
Did you? Okay, yeah, you can do this for lettering. You can do this for people. You can do this for flowers. You can do this for still lifes. This will help you draw when you don't draw. So you made your square. Right? And I use my T-square to get my square. So what I want is these parallel lines are parallel here. I don't want them. It won't work if the line is wonky. The line needs to be parallel, which is why I use a T-square.
If you can slide that forward, I'm going to do a quick adjustment here. You want to take it. I'm going to see if I can adjust this camera a little bit so that I can make it so that it can be seen.
All right, so I've got this corner here. This box goes here. I got to line these up. And then this corner.
Can you use a marker maybe?
Can I use a marker? Yeah, give me a marker. Yeah. I can't erase. Y'all are going to see how hot, messy boots I am. Messy boots, messy boots. All right, I'll box it in. So the difference between Quest this year, see, I let the T-square move.
We forgive you, Sherpa.
All right. So the difference between Quest this year and Quest next year is we're going to cover a lot of this stuff again next year in short little digestible bits. And then have other stuff that we get in depth too.
Like badges.
Like badges. I mean, I don't need no badges, but you're going to need some badges.
You're going to get them.
Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pencil in my vanishing lines and then ink in the part of the box that's in the perspective. So I'm going to take that corner and match it up to this vanishing point. And I'm going to take this dot and this corner and match them up like you do.
You do?
You do it.
Oh, my.
And then I'm going to say the box is maybe this deep. So I'll go like that.
Where's your bottom little line thing?
All right.
Your bottom of the box. How'd you do that?
What thing?
At the bottom of that box.
This bottom?
Yeah.
I just held the T-square here, sweetheart.
Oh, I know, but see, oh, you haven't drawn a vanishing
I
point.
haven't drawn any of it in yet.
It's like,
All right. So here's the depth of my box, right? My box is
Gotcha.
going back.
that's the line it's
Yeah.
missing for me. That's when I was like, what? How? It's
Dyslexic.
yeah. For me,
Doesn't matter, because as long as I have this little tool, I'm going to get through this experience, right?
Yeah.
Now, this also goes to its vanishing point. All right? This also goes to its vanishing point. This tells me already, can you guys see some depth in my box?
Yeah.
So if I were to say my box has... All right, and the next one I can do down is this interesting one here. So I can make this corner come straight down. And the corner of my box, which is really where I gotta actually draw my box line.
Oh, this is so clever. Yeah.
So that helps me figure out my box line.
Oh yeah, I see. So
There we go.
this is a really great way of like reducing some trauma that you may have had in high school and drafting class.
Yeah.
And just sort of like, all right, you can use this in a lightweight way.
You should use it in a lightweight way.
And this is pretty cool because you
Yeah.
could just now what I was excited about earlier is that that first image of the tunnel there.
Yes.
That you talked about doing that in grayscale. That's a really interesting study.
Well,
idea.
because it's easier sometimes to see grayscale necessarily than,
Yeah.
certain kinds of, here we go.
oh, you made a
See, I made a deep box.
you did. See, that looks like a flying box.
It does. I have a little trouble sometimes, again, and I'm not really working a precision instrument. And I don't mind that I've got to fuss around a bit.
Now, if you don't have a T-square ruler,
Dude, then I hope you're very tidy.
it gets very difficult, huh?
For me, it would be impossible. I mean, and now I'm like, I've done this so much that I can kind of be like, oh yeah, it's got to have this line, and the lines need to converge generally about like here, and that's where they need to converge.
Uh-huh.
And this is the trick. I just want you guys to try to draw a box that has some depth to it. See how we're doing that right there?
Mm-hmm.
If I add shading to this, right?
Oh,
Then
yeah.
boom, it's on like Donkey Kong here. So my box is deep. It has
Oh.
the illusion of depth.
I have to go back over here. Push.
Now,
this
one of
button.
the things that happens to me, I have this weird vision thing where these reverse on me.
What does?
The perspective on things.
Oh yeah, that happens to me all the time too.
Means I can see the hidden boat real easy, but sometimes I'm like, on perspective.
Yeah.
And my whole thing on this, and my real advice to you on this always, always is, it's okay if it's awkward, right? If I had given up because it was, like for some of my friends, man, the ruler and the T-squares and the triangles all came together really easy, and I'm always having to be like, I feel like a car engine that clicks over.
Yeah.
Right? But I can't then not do it because it's a little weird.
Huh.
I have to still persevere because the payoff is so good.
Oh yeah, that's exciting. I really like the idea of that. And so it's like someday I'm gonna like have time to take up doing some painting, and I want to like go through all of the big art quests myself, and because it's been really interesting, like watching and participating from like
The back.
yeah.
So I'm going to shade this here. I'll shade this a slightly lighter shade. And now we get some depth into our box. All right. Now we get some depth into our box, don't we?
Nice. I used to love doing that with the letters. That was
Yeah.
my thing. Now, I hope now for all of you out there at home watching all of us here in TV land, we want to see your perspective paintings.
just this, do this, and then the other one I'm going to show you before we go, I'm going to answer some questions. The other one I'm going to show you that's currently really urgently relative. You can see how I sort of put in some tracks, and I was like, hey, there's a house right here, and here's it's looking for some window space and stuff like that, and I'm doing that there. This is all we're working on today. We'll do some foreshortened circles. We'll start adding this stuff up, but trust me, just get the boxes down.
Yeah.
Get boxes down.
Boxes.
Work on boxes, because once you start working on the boxes and do a box that's high, what if a box was high, right? What if it had a high box?
It would be up. Can you make a box going off the screen? Off the page?
You can. For the purposes of today, that's not, but yes, you can.
You just have to extend the lines.
You have to
off.
extend everything.
Neat.
So I'm going to just arbitrarily decide the size of this box.
I'm just arbitrary.
Like I have been this whole time.
I'm just making things more complicated.
So you're always. Well, as we get more complicated, I just want to work on those specific things where I can kind of curate how I put those in together a little more.
Yeah, there's also.
So see how this box's vanishing points are here, aren't they?
Ooh, high five, Diana. She's going to have her engineering exam this summer.
Woohoo! So if I come back here, like this, now I have, and I'll ink that in. I want to match those up. Now I have that box going back that way.
Now you can use those open doors there to show perspective there as well, huh?
Yes. You can use an open door. If you wanted to do a window, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a very essential skill. Because the doors would be in, okay, so windows almost all, like very often, I'll do like a little tiny one. So if I've got a window and it has like some shutters, its horizon line is going to be like here somewhere, right? So the shutters are going to have to be in perspective.
Oh, yeah.
See how those are open?
Oh, yeah.
And then, you know, the objects inside the window are also subject to the vanishing point.
Mm-hmm.
And so it would really be about, you know, drawing the shutters to the vanishing point. And that's how you would like do a weird little Tuscan window. So it's just about, you know, being like, all right, this is my vanishing point. As long as you realize it's not really drawing as much as I just got to get this line and decide where my points are going to vanish.
Yeah.
Right? And then if I do that, you know, just a little observational trick, and we're going to cover this more later. I have some elastic here.
What? Why do you have an
I don't think anything explains this horizon line better than elastic.
Okay. You got me
I
curious.
have you.
I've never. I know you asked me to get this, but I didn't know what it was for.
Yeah. This was the thing that helped me get it. Okay.
All right.
If you were, say, doing a frescan, you know, like if you were doing a big mural and you were trying to keep track of some very complicated perspectives, this right can become what your horizon line looks like.
Wow.
This explains to you what your vanishing point is. Now, yeah, it moves a little bit on my pencil, but it does tell me what the heck, you know, I'd be doing if I were doing that. So can you see how if it pulls down, an object here would have a line here, if it were in 2-point perspective.
So if you were to go to the tip of the roof there. Oh no, I guess that's aligning to a different thing.
But this is 1 point.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, if you're trying to understand what's happening on the horizon line, and the first time I had somebody show me that, I was just like, that totally, because I had so much trouble with 2 and 3 point. And I was like, oh, it's like a bungee line. Somebody's like, it's like an elastic line. And this is how, like, if you were doing a huge mural where T-square wouldn't work. I say this, I brought this up this class because so many of you are currently in the middle of a huge mural.
Gotcha.
If you needed to figure out the horizon line to your mural, you would actually tape it up
So
with your elastic and allow your elastic to give you the 2-point perspective. That's how they did, like, that's how you would do something like that big mural down at the front of the town.
So what about objects that are not straight lines, like trees and soft toys and things?
Yeah.
You just line them up?
No, I mean you would think you can do some vanishing points. So like say I have a teddy bear.
Yeah.
And I can sit there and say objects here. You can make some converging lines that help you determine, what the size of your object would be. So if I have, something that's, converging here.
Yeah.
It's up closer to me on here.
It's up yeah. So but if like you, but these are all like you're lining up these boxes in perspective. But let's say you want
to look, every one of these circles.
Oh, you just did it.
Yeah.
You just made little round things.
Yeah, it's the same thing. So this could be like
trees.
My name is a tree and I'm so tree-like, but I'm his friend and I don't go as tall. I'm here and I don't.
Oh, and you just use that little bottom line to make the trunk height.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, neato.
See? And then I can do that.
Oh.
Sorry. You're making me so... John is really working hard to make my very boring class so much more cool.
No, believe me, they're not. So I'm like, we've got 252 people here, 248 likes, and I have not been doing my job of saying, everybody like, comment, subscribe, and share so we can make the Sherpa dance at 300, because I've actually been really watching this episode, been really enjoying it, because perspective is one of those things I like.
It's hard for me, but it's one of my favorite things because it's fair.
It's good.
Perspective is fair. Genetics is a lottery. Perspective is fair.
Okay. So now...
All right. So say I have some hills. I want to have some hills, right?
Yeah.
I got some hills, and they're going off in my little distance, like hills tend to. And let's say I have a road, right, that's coming. And give myself a little road with a little curve. Right, I got a little road here.
Yeah.
I'm going to put another little hill just to demonstrate the weirdness of the road, where a road can wander, right? So there's this road here. This road can curve here, and it's going to be smaller than this road. And then it could curve up here, just vanish into the distance.
Huh.
Little dot. We kind of did this on Oz.
Yeah.
So the idea of this is that the roads, like you're impacted by the curve of the road. And I can make an even more distinctive curve to this hill, right? And this dash would be the biggest dash, and so it's got further where they get smaller. This tells me that this road is going off into some distant vista. And then if I were to have another little mountain here, and I were to see a smaller version of the road curving around here, it would be wider at the beginning of the mountain and narrower at the top. And then this would be quite fine. You would see no detail of the yellow line. You would just see the mark and the hill.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when you guys are trying to do your wandering roads that are wandering away, the trick that you need to have going on is that you need to make sure that they're wider at the base, that they're tapering and they're narrowing, that the subsequent roads that are coming up over the hills, you would not be able to even see this road over on this hill. This hill would be so distant and gray that you wouldn't be able to see any part of that road.
Now, so how do you decide how wide to make the path on the second and third hill when starting it? Is that just sort of like experience?
That is, for me, that is experience. But there is, and we'll go over it, there is some rendering stuff, because I can sit there and map out some perspective lines here if I want to have the exact science of it.
But it would be fair to say that you want where it picks up to be smaller than where it left off.
Yeah, it needs to be the size of the road where it picks up tells you how close the hill is. Let's say I change the size of this road. Watch what happens to the perspective of the drawing. Let's say I'm trying to say this is a closer hill. right? I'm going to even erase some of the line of this hill so I can do this. We'll say that they had to carve out some little road space.
Oh, neat. Yeah.
And you see how that...
So just as long as it's it's relatively smaller than...
But this hill is much closer now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Isn't it? You know, so then if I'm, you know, if I have a tree here, it's going to be this big.
So your brain just kind of fixes this for you.
Right. How big then in relationship to this road could my house be?
You kind of get an idea.
Has to be like that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To be believable to be near this road, this tree has to be this big, but the house has to be smaller. If these were all on the same hill, like, so say I had this road, no house here. I had this big tree, this is all on the same hill, but this were small, like this. Makes less sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's what happens to most everybody, is their objects in relationship to each other are just slightly out of tune, and so they don't make sense. And they're like, man, I cannot draw. This is the cars get me.
Yeah.
For this very reason. Because that's a lot of converging lines that must line up because they are not organic. I can kind of be like, is a tree, is a tree, is a tree, is a tree, and it's getting smaller in the distance. Yeah. And I'm pretty good at keeping those relationships decent to each other so the pieces are harmonious. In a car, I can't really kind of like generally tree, generally tired. I really want tires to make sense. So I have to, within my converging lines, I have to do my tires in perspective or my whole car looks like it got in a derby and bad things happen to it. And it'll be real funny when I do this right, then John gets all excited. He's like, you did really good on that car. And I'm like, I had to do perspective. But see how this house makes no sense here?
I do.
Can't be on this hill with this big tree. Can't. Doesn't belong there. Doesn't belong there. Can be over here, though. These people could live over here.
Yeah.
Right? Have a vanishing point going off somewhere over here. Can't see it. Right? Just a thing. Tree's looking pretty happy. Person could be sitting here reading a book. Book man. That's designing.
Oh, we've had over 250 people here with us this entire show. 284 likes. Thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us.
So my hope here is today that you just feel a little less uncomfortable with the idea of perspective and maybe a little more open-minded to that just with a T-square triangle and a pencil, you could probably do this yourself.
Yes.
And that there's a clear set of rules. And oh my goodness, there's so much information out there about this. It gets deep. As deep as color theory gets, perspective gets.
Yep.
You can take this as far as you enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
You can get crazy. You can do optical illusions that mess with your friends and family. Once you get your perspective down and your color theory down, you can just mess with people, which I think would happen to Escher.
Yeah. You're like, you just fell into a hole of perspective.
He did. He just fell into a whole perspective. And he was like, I could mess with people with this.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you can. It's magicians depend on this quite a lot.
I love it.
To get away with a lot of their tricks. And in future stuff, we're going to actually do stuff where it's like, why does that cup look like you can pick it up off the table?
Yeah.
You know those ones where it's like, it's forced
yeah.
perspective, but from one angle, it looks like it's a real cup sitting up on the table, but then from another, it just looks like a really long, weird cup.
Yep.
I don't know that you guys need to do some sidewalk chalk art, but this is the basis of messing with people on the sidewalk.
Well,
If you're just feeling like a little frustrated, want to get some good chalk and be like, I'm going to draw a hole you think you're falling into.
Fables.
Sorry.
No, Fables.
It's a weird dark turn.
Fables and a whole bunch of other people are out here saying that they're ready to reapproach that high school trauma of perspective and do
Yeah.
this. So
Yeah.
this was really good. So I think that they really appreciate it. Their cinnamon.
But we're just working on the 1 point. We're just today we're only right, just this box.
Just the 1 point box.
Just a 1 point box. Don't 1 point box. We're going to take this and really calm, goofy segments, build on it, and then actually, we combine this and I teach you guys some stuff about keying, then we are into some landscaping, we are into some painting, we'll be street scening, we can anything we want.
And you're gonna
these things come together.
You're gonna have some more paint, some more drawing tutorials coming up, some more drawing doodles and stuff.
I'm gonna have to for some of the stuff that we're doing. I've got to do some drawing. I'm not like the best drawing tutorials, but I'm gonna have to do some so I can explain what the heck happened.
So you'll see some more of that stuff coming up here too.
But still traceables, because I really just think it's a skill. And now you know why I believe it's a skill. It's just a skill.
Where can they find that information?
At TheArtSherpa.com.
TheArtSherpa.com. I love pushing buttons. So, all right.
So where's class? So where's Quest? Thank you for putting up with it.
Thank you for coming and hanging out with us. We love you guys.
See you Saturday for the landscape.
There it is. Love you guys.
Bye.